I've done no intro this time. Get straight into it, straight into the numbers, straight into the video title. The £35,000 gap in house prices. One of the reasons that moving house is so difficult is because there's so much mystery surrounding what's actually happening with house prices. And if there's only one thing that you need to understand that will help you demystify so much of what's happening, whether you are buying or selling, whether you are thinking of buying or selling and doing your research, or whether you're looking at the whole market and wondering what the hell's going on. Let me just... So these numbers here are taken from a similar data set as Rightmove. In other words, it's all asking price data. But the difference is, this is from my website, BestAgent, right? And there's a link to this page below, the BestAgent house price index. The difference is, and this is a really important difference, Rightmove only includes in its house price index, it only includes properties listed in the last month at their initial launch asking price, and that's it. It doesn't include price reductions. It doesn't include everything else in the whole market. It doesn't include a separation between what's for sale and what's sold. It's just brand new asking prices this month. And it's therefore the absolute highest it can ever be. It's almost like it's designed to be the maximum high price, which is why Rightmove's so-called average house price is so ridiculously higher than all of the other indices. The point I want to draw your attention to is the difference between the house prices of houses that are selling, in other words, the ones that are actually in the market, and the house prices of houses that are not selling. And the difference in the median house price of homes that are selling versus homes that are not is £35,000 based on everything that's currently on the market. This is just in England, right? Not Scotland, not Northern Ireland. I've also got Wales. In Wales, it's actually £45,000. Right? The gap there is 45 grand in Wales on the median. Now, the median and the average are different. I want to explain this so you understand. But just before I go into all of this, I want to tell you something, right? This is not an accident. This is not by mistake. This is by design of both the government and the moving industry. And it's what I'm seeking to end and to change with my property website, BestAgent, right? bestagent.co.uk. Official government house price figures are published by the Land Registry, or Land Registry data published by the ONS. And in their initial readout, which is always an estimate, it only includes about 8 to 10% of transactions for the month they're reporting on. So it excludes more than 90% of actual transactions for the month they're reporting on. They are down valuing, they're revising those estimates down later, and they're also seriously lagged because that is completion price when registered with the Land Registry, and it's months, sometimes up to a year after the deal was actually agreed. So the government house price data that it gives us is a small sample of a very belated data set. And therefore, we are none the wiser as to what's happening with house prices today. And yet, the government does have what's happening with house prices today, or at least last month, because HMRC has every single residential property transaction registered with it for the purposes of stamp duty within 2 weeks of completion. That's the law, right? Every housing transaction must be reported to HMRC within 2 weeks of completion. So they have 100% of house price transaction data. They don't publish it. They should. HMRC should just publish the raw data, not some convoluted index, just the raw data. Make it public, make it available so people can query it themselves. The housing industry has data that's even more up to date than HMRC's completion data because it has exchange prices. So Zoopla owns software systems that contain exchange prices as they happen. But Zoopla is not allowed to publish that data because its estate agency clients won't let it. Large estate agents like Connells, right? Connells, which also owns Countrywide, has more data that it could publish than the land registry does in its first readout. Okay, it has more actual house price data up to the minute, up to the week that it could publish, but it chooses not to. And there are other data companies in the property sector that have accurate, up-to-date house price data, but they choose not to publish it. You are being kept in the dark on purpose because it suits them. Both the government and the moving industry could choose to just pull the covers off the truth of house prices, the raw data, the actual truth of house prices. The industry and the government both have the power to do that. They choose not to. So until that changes, and that's something that I'm hoping to catalyze a change using this house price index on that line there, the exchanged price index. Work in progress. It's taking its sweet time. We are getting there, right? But until then, if you're a buyer wondering, what should I offer? If you're a seller thinking, what should I price at, or what should I lower my price to? Or if you're a would-be buyer or a would-be seller doing your research, trying to make head or tail of what's actually happening to house prices, this one fact will help clear some of the clouds. It doesn't bring total clarity, but it's a really important thing. So what have I got here? This is data from the 29th of January, so less than a week ago. It's for just England, and it's 72,000 homes are currently showing as sale agreed or sold subject to contract or under offer. Any of those things comprise this sale agreed data. 72,000 homes, which, by the way, on its own is larger than the entire land registry house price index by the ONS when it's first published, right? That is usually somewhere between 8 to 10,000. Then we've got 315,000, so nearly 4.5 times more property that's on the market that is not sold, that is not under offer. It's sitting there waiting. And by separating out the sale agreed from the for sale, it tells a really big story. All right. Now, those of you who understand the difference between median and average will understand why the median prices are round numbers, okay? And the median asking price publicly showing of all 72,000 properties that are showing a sale agreed is £315,000, okay? The median asking price of all properties not selling is £350,000. Now, you can interpret that any way you like. This is cold, hard, raw data. There's no manipulation of this. There's no weighting or hedonic regression or mix adjustment. It's just the whole market with a simple median calculation of everything that's on the market. Okay? There's a 35 grand difference there. So when you are doing your research on the internet, trying to work out what you should offer, trying to work out what you should ask, you should ignore the asking prices of the unsold stuff. So whether you are a seller thinking, what are the neighbors selling at? We're coming to the market. If the neighbor's house isn't under offer, you should ignore their asking price, or you should apply an immediate 10% reduction on average. Now, it'll vary. In some places, it'll be 20%. Some places, it'll be 5%. But nationally, in England, is that England? Yeah, that's sales, right? That's England, right? Nationally, in England, the national average difference between for sale and sold properties is 35 grand less than the 350 grand median, right? So that's 10%. So that's a pretty safe rule of thumb. If you don't want to overprice your home as a seller, if you don't want to be sitting there wondering why you've got no viewings, then you must ignore the asking prices of properties that have been sitting there not selling. Or you must immediately remove at least 10%. And that 10 percentage figure increases as you go higher up the pricing ladder. So for higher value properties, you should be actually reducing more like 20%. And for lower value properties, perhaps just 5%, right? But overall, 10%. Immediately knock off 10% because those houses aren't selling. Okay? These houses are selling at 35 grand less based on the median. And the unsold stuff makes up over 80% of the stock. Unsold. Okay, less than 20% of the stock is showing as sold. Most important final point on this is to remember that that median price for sold stuff is not the sale agreed price. It's not the sold price. That we don't have the public data of what's been agreed behind the scenes yet for the whole country. We do have for the estate agents using my CRM software, but that's not a large enough sample size yet to be meaningful. Now I want to point out to you the difference between median and average and why they're so different, right? Because people think, oh, isn't average average? And again, if you're not a mathematician, you may not even know the difference between average and median. I mean, even GCSE maths should give you, if you remember it, should give you a basic understanding of the difference between average and median. The average is calculated by adding up all the prices. So in this case, adding up all 72,000 prices together into one big number and then dividing it by 72,064. That is how that average price is calculated. The problem is that average is not a fair representation of typical house prices because it is skewed by the very, very highly priced properties sitting on the market. And that's including ones that are selling, right? But there's no extremely low price to balance out those extremely high value properties selling. And so the average house price, the mean house price, is always disproportionately larger than it should be because of the distribution of prices of properties being sold. And the average house price of stuff not selling, look at the gap there. There's an even bigger gap, right? It's 63, it's 83, 80, it's £85,000 difference on the average asking price, so the mean asking price versus the mean price of sold properties. That's an 85 grand difference. Is this making sense? Are there any questions on this in the comments? That's interesting. So Lee Everett Property, who's an agent, says, I've asked Richard at Zoopla why they don't use our data from our CRM to give the most accurate reports possible. It's very simple, Lee. The biggest estate agents in the land won't let them, right? Zoopla's biggest clients won't allow it. They don't want that level of transparency because their overvaluing would be revealed. But there's interesting question from you there. Yeah, Rick's G says it would be more helpful to have regional median price. Absolutely agree with that. And also broken down by property type. And we will get there. And when we've got more data, we will get there, right? I completely agree with you. Any questions on this data from anyone watching this now? While I'm waiting to see if there are any questions, I'm going to just show you Wales's. So if you're watching this in Wales, then you'll understand that. Here we are, the house price gap. Right. So here is the Wales difference in pricing. So the median gap in Wales between unsold and sold homes is actually £45,000. Look at that. 230,000 is the median asking price of sale agreed properties, but 275,000 is the median asking price of for sale properties that aren't sold. But there's still a 4-to-1 ratio between unsold and sold. Why is there such a big difference? Why are there so many properties not selling? Well, it's because of all the sellers who go, oh, I don't have to sell. I'm going to put on the price that I want. If I don't sell, I don't sell. And that's that. Look how many people on the market are in that bracket and what a massive waste of time it is for everybody. And more importantly, how much that is skewing Rightmove's house price, which is widely quoted by the media, widely used even by the government. Rightmove says house prices are this. Rightmove says house prices are that. Well, Rightmove's prices they actually exclude the sale agreed stuff. They don't just not include reductions and that kind of stuff. They only include the asking prices of stuff that hasn't sold. They couldn't make a more unhelpful index if they tried. And Rightmove could do exactly this. They could do the same, right? And actually, Rightmove's recent price is just so you can see that they do the whole of the UK. This is just England and Wales, of course, but that's why you've got this average price here. And Rightmove's average price in the UK is something like that, £335,000. But look at the difference between the average unsold asking price, £334,000, this is Wales, right? And the median sold asking price. That is over £100,000 difference. So this is typical of the Rightmove number. This is the actual thing of what's happening. Let's look at it for England, it'll be different. Right? In England, no, it's an even bigger gap. In England, 463 average asking price of the whole market, 315 median price of the sold market. So unsold, sold. That's £150,000 difference. And whether you are a buyer or a seller, this should impact you. Whether you are a buyer or a seller, this should alter your perception of what's happening, okay? Because if your agents try to tell you that what the asking price you want is 10% above what's selling, and you choose to ignore them and do it anyway, hoping that just one buyer. I mean, look at that. That's 315,000 people in England hoping for, you only need one buyer. It's widespread insanity. That's it, guys. I'm not going to ramble on much more. I'm not going to rant on much more. The government should publish house prices that the HMRC has the month after they're there. It would change the housing market overnight because it would end overvaluing overnight if the government chose to pull the covers off HMRC's stamp duty. They do publish the number of transactions. There is no question or no doubt about whether or not HMRC possesses house price data. They have it all, and they publish it immediately every month because they say, last month there were 100,000 property transactions. Oh, and yes, we do have the prices for each and every one of those 100,000 property transactions, but we're not going to release that. No, not going to release that. Mike 13 asks, isn't the difference between the 315 and 350 partly reflecting that smaller, cheaper properties are selling quicker than larger ones? So isn't it mixed rather than dropping prices? I'm not saying that it is dropping prices, but the point is that these are just all asking prices of all properties. And yes, there's no precise conclusion you can draw here. But in time, we'll get to break this down by property type, and then it'll tell a little more interesting story. Right, guys, thank you for watching. Links below to lots of ways I can help you. I hope that was useful. I hope that was interesting. Please share this video with anyone that you know who's currently got their finger in their ears about house prices. Right? It's useful data. It's useful data, I hope. And let me know if you think so too.